what overview of what to expect, and also insight onto how to do your examination well then. Okay, so if you take this very seriously, first of all, you need to get to the tips of the tips, and after which, if you need the guidance, help, and help from Mr. Roland, who will give you, an in-depth of what to do, how to do it, and why you're doing it, based on his 20 years of experience handling the GCO level papers. Yeah, so the in and the out, that includes the expectations, the requirement, and also, what to expect, the objective, the requirement. Sorry, let me say again. The requirement, the expectation, and the objectives. At the same time, you would like to be very familiar with the examination formats. What are the common topics and the type of question set, and how are the question sets? And also, where are the traps set for students who are not aware and cause you to lose the marks? And at the same time, where are the markers checkpoint? So all this, right, if you grab it properly, you will still stand a chance, right, to move one grade up, by getting 5 marks that you think that you will not get it, right? Even though you don't know the answers, okay? Especially for the MCQ and a single answer questions, right? And also to prevent you from losing marks that you thought you will gain, right, in a very unnecessarily. Okay, so that is the whole objective. Yeah. So this talk is about how to be exam smart, the skills, the techniques of handling the papers, and this will get you, 5 marks up. Okay, yeah. So nobody can do that except with somebody who had done the papers again and again and again and again. So I bet you don't want to do that. Okay, so hopefully you do this exam once and do it well once, so that you move on to your next level of learning. Okay, so without further delay, I will hand this screen to Mr. Roland Tan. Okay, Mr. Roland.
Right. Yes, thank you, Mr. Dennis. That was over generous description of my credentials. Yeah, but anyway, yes, I have 20 years of teaching as
on camera.
Out of which about 6 years were with the MOE schools. The rest of the years were in my capacity as a private tutor, as well as a tutor affiliated with the various tuition centers. Besides that, I'm also a published writer, and I have written fictional and non-fictional works over the past 2 decades. So I have a particular keen interest in bringing out this creative writing sparks in my students. Yeah, because writing has always been my forte. Now, I'm going to just go straight into what we are here for this evening, but I just want to be very sure that I'm not addressing a silent audience. I want to be very sure that you can hear me loud and clear, because I'm very particular about my audio and my video. Can I have just 1 or 2 feedback? Can somebody say whether you can hear me? I don't want to come to the end of the presentation and you told me, that you can't hear anything. Anybody? It's been very quiet.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, can you just identify yourself?
Oh, my name, is it?
Okay. Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So at any point in time when you cannot hear me, please say something. Otherwise, I'll be speaking to a blank, screen. Okay, so I'm going to begin by sharing with you the GCO level syllabus markup copy. Now, by now, you should be aware that you're taking the GCO level English 1128 syllabus. Now, you should also be familiar with the scheme of work and the assessment objectives. What I want to go through very quickly with you here is just to give you some, strategies, to have an overview. Now, this scheme of assessment is something that you're familiar with, and the weighting of the marks. Now, however, what I have put in here is the regross percentage of each subcomponent so that you can have a better view, how much weightage, each subcomponent contributes to the overall percentage. So as you can see, editing make up 5%, all right? Situational writing, continuous writing, 15% each. That's for your paper 1. Now we move on to paper 2, your comprehension. Your section A, which is your visual text, accounts for 3.5%. Section B, your text type B, 14%, and text type C, 17.5%. So all in making up a total of 35%. Next, we go to paper 3, your listening comprehension. Making up of section A, which comprises 8%, and section B, the remaining 2%. Last but not least, your paper 4 oral communication, which is made up of part 1 reading aloud, that is about 6 and 2/3%. And spoken interaction, the balance 13 and 1/3%. Now, you may say that, well, all these are just, mathematics. Well, I want to submit to you that there's more to it. I'm just going to highlight to you some important points that you need to take note. Okay, beginning with your paper 4. Now, can you see that of this, the 100%, your reading aloud and spoken interaction accounts for 20%. And you can see in the last column, your oral examination would typically take about 20 minutes. Can you imagine just putting in that 20 minutes of sterling performance? You can potentially get up to about 18%. All right. So, compare this, with the time that you need to commit. Actually, I would say it is a very good deal that, you just focus, your energy, make sure you ace your oral communication. You are actually maximizing your scores. Next, I want you to take a look at the first component, which is editing. No doubt, it only makes up 5%. I want to let you know that this is probably the easiest component for you to prepare. And, this 5%, I'm so confident that if you prepare well, you can get 4%. All right. Now, for the rest, I will go through in greater detail. There are certain strategies that you can actually adopt to optimize your time resources such that your energies are being channeled into, the area that yields the highest return for you, right? So let's now dive in straight to what we are here for tonight, which is basically to give you an idea on this revision package that I have put together for you. Let me see if I can enlarge this to full screen. Yes, okay, good. Can you see my screen? Again, I need a feedback. Online revision for GC O-level English. Somebody say yes, can see my screen?
Yes, can see.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, in the picture on the right, that was actually taken during the peak of the circuit breaker last year. I was, 100% intensive on Zoom tutoring, and those are my equipment. Well, for this revision package, there is a total of 14 lessons, making up of paper 1, 5 lessons, paper 2, 5 lessons, paper 3, 2 lessons, and paper 4, 2 lessons. I will begin with the most immediate paper, which is your paper 4, that's coming up from 22nd July. So just to also assure you that I take my work very seriously, and all my lessons are pre-planned. So this is the lesson plan that I have worked out for the revision package. So beginning with paper 4, if you were to sign up for this oral lessons of two sessions, that will have to kick off next week, because we really don't have the time. We only have 2 weeks, to prepare for your oral examination. So lesson 1 will focus on the strategies. So like what I have alluded to earlier on, if you look at the time allocated versus the mark weightage, you would agree with me that oral is a very strategic component for you to do well. Yeah. So just for 20 minutes of your time, and of course, before that, you need to prepare well. You are, you are going for, at least about 17%, if I can put it, for the average student. So I feel a lot of background noise. Mute your background noise.
Excuse me. Hello there. Sorry, Mr. Roland. Is there somebody could just mute yourself, please? The background is terrible.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Somebody. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Roland, proceed here.
Okay, so now next, no less important is your reading. For reading, I will be teaching you articulation, intonation, word stress, sentence stress, expression, tips of overall good presentation, and your ultimate fallback plan. Now, you may not know, many Singapore students are not just grappling with, getting the intonation right. They are making, mistakes in not intonating at the right places. Syllabication is very important. For instance, like for nouns and adjectives, where 2-syllable words are concerned, you always stress on the first syllable. And for 2-syllable word verbs, you would stress on the second syllable. When it comes to 3-syllable words, you would always stress on the middle syllable, right? So all these are very simple, skills for you to pick up. Once you get into the habit, you'll find that reading is such a pleasure. When you read, it's like sing along, and your listeners will just enjoy your reading. Okay, so this is what I'll be covering, and the learning outcome from lesson 1 would be you will take away from that lesson and be more confident in projecting yourself, and you'll be able to read more fluently with varied tone. In lesson 2, we will be focusing on stimulus-based spoken interaction. And here I'll just give you a very quick sort of teaser on what is the difference between O-levels and PSLE. And you'll realize that actually what you need to do is to build on what you have already been familiar with when you were preparing your PSLE stimulus-based spoken conversation. Whereas now is interaction. So in O-levels, what you are expected to do is to have more independent thinking. You will want to present your original viewpoints, even though they might sound controversial at times. So long as you're being honest and you're being polite and discreet, I think it's absolutely fine for you to speak up your mind. Now, this is far better than somebody who are just parroting, the common hackney phrases that people, that examiners will be getting very bored, because don't forget they are hearing hundreds of candidates saying the same thing. So if you want to differentiate yourself from the rest, you really have to show that you have fresh and original views. So the takeaway from lesson 2 will be, you will begin to learn how to be more relaxed and view the spoken interaction, which of course now is based on a video clip, and just engage the examiner like as though he's a friend. In fact, that's the whole idea. He wants to engage you. So if you go with that kind of mindset, you will feel more relaxed. So that rounds up our 2 so-called urgent sessions for your paper 4. After that, we will move on to essay writing 1, which is covered in lesson 3. Now, essay writing, this is the scourge of most students. Yeah. I don't know why, but students just find it so repulsive, in writing. Now, I will of course be giving you a overview of the different genres of writing: your expository, narrative, descriptive, argumentative, and hybrid. More significantly, the hybrid writing is the trend that we are seeing in recent O-level papers, so that you can distinguish and understand the expectations of the different genres. And I would also, give you the approach to writing each of this genre once you have determined where your strengths and weaknesses are. And of course, there will be this cross-fertilization of ideas to optimize your content bank. What I mean by this is that we should not treat writing of each genre in silo. That means when you are doing an expository narrative, or you're reading some read passages on narrative descriptive, you should start to accumulate all the ideas, okay, and learn to cross-fertilize them. That means, in other words, a expository topic doesn't have to be pure information. You can build in an anecdote. That means you can give a brief account of your experience and embed this in your expository writing, just to drive home the point that you believe what you believe in, like what saving the earth, and you can give a personal account of how you saw the utter ways of rubbish that's piling up in the landfill, and you had a first-hand account of what you saw, and that caused you to be more sensitive to going green and saving the earth. So that's what I meant by cross-fertilizing your ideas. Okay, and over the few lessons, I will help you to build your content bank so that you have more ideas. You see, the most common complaint that I have heard from students when it comes to writing is the lack of ideas. Now, that is not necessarily a difficult hurdle to overcome. It is more about how you synthesize, what you read. Try to combine everything. Your social studies, for instance, can become the grease for your expository writing. When you learn about racial harmony, well, those stuff are relevant when you do a topic, let's say on the different races, the diversity of society, diversity of our society. Okay, so more on that when we go into the lesson proper. Now, introduction to my practice methodology. Okay, so for writing exercise, I want to be very clear with my students. this is the expectation, and I think this will be very helpful for you. Whenever it comes to the first draft of the writing, all this will be done on Google Doc. So, so this will enable me to share document with you and give you a live commentary on how I edit your first draft. Usually there'll be quite a fair bit of editing on your first draft, but that's not to discourage you. It's really to give you that idea on how your work can be refined. Now, once when that is done, then, the second draft, you would have to handwrite your work, because after all, our GCO level is still based on handwritten work. So you need to practice your handwriting, right? You need to write it out. So once when that's done, you need to WhatsApp a picture of that and send it to me for marking. And then once when I have corrected, I would again WhatsApp to you. And this time there should be there should not be too many changes if you have already done the first draft properly, or rather you have taken heed of the first draft feedback consensuously and completed your second draft. So the final draft is just for you to do corrections, and after which you would WhatsApp me again for my final check. So that's for essay writing 1. Now we come to lesson 4, which is editing. Now, editing is probably the easiest component for you to prepare even at the last minute. I'm so confident of this that even if your examination, today is Friday, is next Monday, over the weekends, I can teach you how to handle this. And I'm quite sure it can make a difference to your marks. Why do I say so? I don't pluck it from the air. You see, editing is based on 8 categories of grammar. So you have the subject-verb agreement, articles, determiners, tenses, present, past, past participles, your prepositions, connectors, intention of the writer, relative pronouns, singular, plural nouns. So this is the equivalent of your mathematical formula. In editing, if you know the grammatical formula, you would be able to ace this section. And I would actually expect you to improve by at least 2 marks, all right? If you are in the average band. But if you're already in the top band, then I would expect you to move into the band of between 8 and full marks. It is possible. I will be covering the common pitfalls in this editing, like the sentence runovers. I will be covering strategies, the doubtful errors versus the vital errors. Sometimes, what you're going through, you're not very sure. This one seems like it is not quite right. Okay, then after that, you read further on, oh, that one is definitely wrong. After modals, you must have a base form verb. So I don't even need to care about the earlier hesitation, right? So straight away, that is the vital error. I need to correct it. And also there's some strategy to handle the number of no errors, which at O levels, that the total of 2 blanks with no errors. And how many of such no error ticks are permissible? Okay, the consistency of tenses, it is a giveaway. If it's a narrative, you can be quite sure that all the verbs should be in the past tense. However, if it's an expository text, you have to bear in mind that all the tenses are likely to be in the simple present tense. So these are little, giveaways, as you scrutinize for the errors in each sentence. So we'll have a lot of drill and practice with live commentary as well. I will explain every answer and the rejection of, any of those or every of those errors. So the strategic focus, like I said, This is an area that can be taught and learned at the 11th hour. All right. So now we move on to situational writing 1, lesson 5. So situational writing 1, situational writing is basically a guided writing exercise. So how easy can that be? Bear in mind the difference between O levels and PSLE. Okay. Now, if you remember your PSLE, I don't know whether how many of you remember how many marks does your situational writing carry in your PSLE? It is how many? 15, 1-5. All right. Yeah. And your composition is 40. So a big difference. So that's already water under the bridge. You know, for O levels, your situational writing and your composition writing, as you have seen earlier on in my markup, you know, the marking scheme, the weightage is 15% each. So it's of equal weightage. Meaning to say your situational writing is just as important as your essay writing, period. Okay, so go with that mindset, you know, and for the weaker students in writing, you know, situational writing is the area that you should capitalize on so that you can level up your scores. So there will be different genres, you know, report writing, email, letter, speech, article. Cutting through all the different genres is the common point that you need to take note. That's your purpose, audience, and context. Very important. You must always bear in mind your PET whenever you're doing your situational writing. And I'll also be covering this extrapolation techniques, you know, to help overcome ideas fatigue. What this means is, you know, how to extend your ideas a little bit. That means you make some assumptions so as to give yourself more leeway, you know, to justify certain proposals, as in the case of a report writing. Nothing wrong with just making some assumptions, provided they are all consistent, you know, with the overall scenario. The strategic focus I have already shared with you that do not underestimate situational writing, because it may just be the lifesaver, you know, if you want to, you know, for the weaker students, if you want to do well for your paper 1. So the second lesson on essay writing, which will be covered in lesson 6. So in this lesson, I'll be focusing on what makes a captivating introduction and a punchy conclusion, which are by far the 2 most important paragraphs in your essay writing, so that you'll be able to write effective introduction and conclusion at the end of the lesson. So there'll be drill and practice. I'll have a class test, and this will be based on a 4-paragraph simplified writing piece, because obviously we wouldn't have the time to write a full-fledged essay. But based on your 4-paragraph, I would be able to know and size up fairly well where your weakness or strengths are. Okay, so the 4 paragraphs would typically be your introduction, then your second paragraph will be your developmental point 1, and then how you develop to, you know, to the climates in the case of a narrative. But in the case of a expository, your third paragraph will be a rebuttal to your second paragraph. Okay, and then of course the last paragraph would be your conclusion. So I will then sample on the spot review of 2 pieces or more, if time permits. So this again will give you a real time, you know, following along with my explanation of how a certain sentence can be improved, or, you know, how a phrase can be worded in another way, for instance. Now, there's also this caveat on narrative, descriptive, overdrive, single topic essays, all right? So now, this is, to say that at O levels, there's no such thing as a pure narrative or a pure descriptive. More likely, in fact, very likely, you'll be getting something like expository plus narrative or expository plus descriptive. And for single topic essays, they are very broad and do not turn it into a pure narrative or descriptive topic. That would be the death knell, I would say, because O-level is about testing how you are able to reflect on let's say a narrative topic, not so much about the story itself. Okay, so you must definitely build in an element of reflection and if possible link it to some views about the bigger picture. So from that experience, what has your worldview been altered, as a result of that? So situational writing lesson 2, there'll be drill and practice. Again, there'll be sample on the spot review of 2 pieces or more. And I'll be giving you a caveat on formal, informal structure with informal, formal tone in hybrid scenarios. Now, just to touch a little bit on this, in recent years at O levels, well, you sometimes don't get a straightforward formal letter or formal writing formats. It can be a formal writing format, but with a semi-formal tone. Conversely, you might be expected to write a somewhat informal letter, but nevertheless, your tone has to be fairly formal. So these are the final points that I want to go through with you in lesson 7. And this is important so that you do not, misread the entire scenario. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to understand the nuances of situational writing. Next, we come to your paper 3. Yes, I have thrown in this in between your other papers because your LC will take place sometime in mid-October. So this is just to make sure that you have adequate preparation time. So the strategic focus. So again, I want to say that LC is not the easiest component of your O-level English papers, unlike PSLE. It's certainly not a walk in the park, okay? And that is something you want to know because I do not want you to, estimate the difficulty level of LC. So the LC comes with 2 parts, your section A and section B. And of course, section B is the note-taking section where you have to fill in your words. I'll be also teaching you some tips on the numbering convention, the date, year convention, and if nothing works, or like you're at your wit's end, what is that word or that phrase? Now there's one last thing you can appeal to, that is common sense. Okay, so at the end of this lesson, you'll be able to apply good common sense in ambivalent situations. Next, I come to visual text. Now, visual text accounts for just 5%, right? So the way to do well in visual text is knowing the overall purpose. Once you have that overall purpose, you will be able to understand, because the inherent purpose of any visual text, be it a banner, brochure, flyer, um, you know, they are basically advertising or promoting something. So the key point is really about persuasion. So there are some motherhood questions, like what is the purpose of this text? I think even without reading the details of the text, the first word that must be triggered in your mind should be the word persuasion, right? Is to persuade you to do something. Now, besides that, you need to have a good understanding of semantics versus semiotics. Semantics is about the language, the words that are being used. Semiotics, on the other hand, is about the images that are used. More importantly, are the images that you have to interpret, the font size, the bold letters. Why did the writer, embolden a certain part, or why is a certain text in italics form? So all these are very crucial for your appreciation of the purpose of this visual text. So at the end of the lesson, you must be able to understand the basic purpose of visual text to get those motherhood questions out of the way and improve your score by at least a mark. So come to lesson 10, I'll be throwing in this drill and practice for your LC, and also an additional practice for your editing. So this is to help you to uncover your blind spots and also to link whatever mistakes to those 8 common items that I mentioned earlier, so that you can improve your scores. Come to lesson 11, all right, which is your comprehension text type B. By far, this is the most challenging comprehension text type for most students. And I don't blame them. The reason being, this is usually of a narrative or a personal recount. And they are usually in a foreign context. So the story is set in an alien culture, which might not be familiar, to Asian students. For instance, if I say, wow, that's so interesting, I'll remember to tell it to the boys. Wow, you're wondering what? Tell it to the boys, what does that mean? But actually, in the Western lingo, it just means just tell my colleagues, I tell my classmates, Yeah, so this is one instance, that I'm highlighting to give you an idea why this text type B could be particularly challenging, all right? Now, I will be covering, answering techniques like, how to avoid repeating the question limb and how to be concise to the point. Know the difference among a word, a phrase, a line, and a sentence. And do you know there's penalty for access codes for over answering? So you must know where to stop your quotation. And lastly, there's this global question that is not easy because you have to kind of trace the mood of the characters or the atmosphere of the scene as the narrative or the personal recount progresses. So again, there are some tips, you have to identify some keywords in each of those paragraphs. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to understand the challenges of this text type B and apply some mitigating techniques to improve scores. Okay, mitigating, because I know this is tough. So the least you can do is help to reduce the incidence of losing unnecessary marks, all right? So now we come to lesson 12, text type C. So this is your typical expository information text. I'll be covering likewise, same as type B, avoid repeating questions, so I don't repeat that again. But what sets type C apart from type B is the summary writing, which is also a struggle for many students. The summary writing will take me about half a lesson to cover. So there are certain techniques that I can impart to help you have a better grip on this section, which is quite weighty in terms of the overall marks assigned to paper 2. So you'll be able to also cross-reference text type C. Okay, so what I'm saying here is the takeaway from this lesson is this expository information text is not usually too difficult for students because the text will be something that most of you would have come across, you know, in your other disciplines or from your reading in one form or another. So the thing is, I will help you to cross-reference your text type C from your other subjects so that, you know, you can optimize your learning. Yeah, so like I said, you know, if you're you have a text on you know the political structure of Singapore, no, then you think back, oh, actually I covered that in, you know, the first chapter of my social studies. Yeah, or the history of Singapore. Yeah, well, you know something about that, don't you, from your social studies, you know, the Japanese occupation and so on. Okay, so that's what I meant. You must always make it a habit to join the dots. The more dots you can join, the better and more effective learner you will be. So don't underestimate your other subjects. All your subjects will play a part in your English language. They will contribute to your better handling of your mastery of the English language. So now we come to text type B, lesson 2. So it's just drill and practice, and I'll give you on the spot commentary on common errors made. And I'll provide you with feedback on strengths and weaknesses. And last but not least, we will have your lesson 2 on your text type C, same thing, drill and practice. And I'll give you on the spot commentary on your common errors made, feedback as well on your strengths and weaknesses. So that wraps up our 14 lessons, inclusive of 2 lessons for oral. Next, I would like to also share with you how Mr. Tan would typically conduct his online lessons. So these are online resources that I'll be using. I have my own Teachwell proprietary videos. These are mainly educational videos that I would be using from time to time to augment my teaching, you know, to enhance your learning. And I also have my YouTube channel, which I will from time to time post speeches, or I may give some opinions on certain topic of current interest. I would actually encourage all my students to just visit my YouTube channel and just listen into some of those stuff that I have posted. Well, like I said earlier, I have a collection of published and unpublished writings. Unfortunately, not all my writings are published. Okay, but I want to say that even for those unpublished writings, I would say that some of them are actually quite instructive, and I would be more than glad to share freely with all my students regarding my works, which cover different genres, you know, from narrative, personal recount to expository. I will also be using quite generously Kahoot, Quizy, and IXL. Now, the kind of online teaching equipment tools, just so that you know that I am serious about carrying out my online teaching. I do invest in good equipment so that my lesson delivery can be carried out with minimum disruptions. I have an unlimited high-speed Wi-Fi, 1 Gbps digital line. This is a top-end Wi-Fi speed. And I have a subscribed Zoom account, which has no time limits. I use 2 laptops, one for contingency purpose, in case if there's any Wi-Fi disruption, or if there's an issue with my current laptop, I can quickly switch on to my spare laptop seamlessly. Now, if you look at my cursor, I also have this external condenser microphone. Basically, this microphone helps to converge the sound waves so that the waves are more concentrated and they are being transmitted across to your speakers. I have had very good feedback from my online students regarding my audio quality. And I always make it a point to ask my students, like what I did at the beginning of this session, that you should be able to hear me clearly, not just audibly, but clearly, because that really is the essence of online learning. Next, I also have this XP pen. You can see here, this is a XP writing pad, and XP pen is right in front. I use this for writing on the Zoom whiteboard, as well as for marking your work. Right. So if there's some work that I need to mark on the spot to highlight to you, I'll use my pen. So it functions just like as if I'm writing on a piece of paper and you are just looking at it real time. You know, the editing that I made to your piece of work. Now this gooseneck stand with an extra camera for optional use, just in case if there's any hiccup. All right, sometimes students Wi-Fi are not strong enough, they might just get kicked out of the classroom. Well, then you will have to communicate with me via Wi-Fi. So that's where I will be prompted and I'll help to rejoin you back to the classroom. So that's the gooseneck stand. Right now, lastly, like what I have alluded earlier, I'm using the Google Drive for online sharing, review of your first draft writing pieces real time. This is important. So, I can just go into my Google Drive and Google Doc, and I will just, read out your writing, and I will just comment, which part of the sentence needs correction or editing or refinement. Okay, so it's important that you must have a Gmail account so that you can also have access to Google Doc and you can share with me your Google Doc. Over at your end, there are also some baseline requirements, okay, for you to have a good, pleasant, online session. Firstly, you need to have a stable Wi-Fi connection. There's nothing worse than, a lesson that is interrupted by unstable connectivity. Next, you need to have a laptop, a desktop with a video cam so that I can see your faces and I can hear you. Gmail account, like what I've said, you need to have this in order that you can access to Google Docs. Lastly, you need to have a smartphone or equivalent for backup in the event of Wi-Fi disruption. Yeah, so the backup communication would always be Wi-Fi in case all things fail. But so far, that has not happened. All right, I think that wraps up my presentation, and thank you for your attention. I would actually open this time now for Q&A or if yeah, and anybody would like to raise any issues, feel free. And I have to say, I probably have to limit to about 10 minutes because I really got to run for my next class at 8:30. So let's make it prompt and you know meaningful for all of us. If you have a question, please say. Okay, wait, let me just stop share. Okay. Is somebody saying anything? All right. Okay, I have 33 participants here. Of course, you know, -2 or so from our KRTC. So is there any question, any doubts or clarification that you may wish to ask? Do it now. I mean, I can wait for a few more minutes. Waiting time is important for teachers. Yeah. Okay, now it's 8:02 according to my time here. Mr. Dennis, maybe we'll just let them 3 minutes. Then if not, then I will have you, say something. Okay, so it's 8:02. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, we have like 3 more minutes. Or if your parents are around, involve them, tell them what you have heard and see whether they have some issues that they might want to raise. Okay, how about some feedback? If you don't have questions, how about some feedback? I need to know whether have I been clear in my presentation? Will we receive the recorded video? Okay, I'll leave this to Mr. Dennis later. Yeah. All right. Okay, wait. But don't have the mindset that I'm not going to ask question because later I can view the video again. No. Ask the question now. There's nothing better than hearing it live from me, right? If you have a doubt, just speak out now. I don't want you to be hearing the video later and then after that you say, oh, I have some questions. And then you might not be able to get me because I'll be busy with something else. And you will not be able to get a response so speedily as right now, we have 2 more minutes. Okay. Because O-level oral is coming out, I think I missed the part. Oh, okay. Yeah. The part about oral, I actually mentioned right at the beginning, I'm catering for 2 additional lessons just to prepare you for O-level orals. And tentatively, I'm actually scheduling the 2 lessons for next Friday and the following Tuesday. I can't do it the following Friday. The following Friday, I think it's the beginning of your O-level oral. And Tuesday is a public holiday. So I think maybe I have a little bit more flexibility. And I might want to also, answer your queries if you need some consultation. At least I have a bit more time to accommodate to your last minute questions. Jane, does that answer your question? Just now somebody, Jane, right? So yes, there are 2 lessons for oral. Well, the remaining 12 lessons will be covering your paper 1, 2, and 3. Okay, it's already 8:05. I think, okay, any last call? Going once, going twice, and be silent forever. No, we are not that mean. Okay, it's just that I need to go, okay? I have to let Mr. Dennis give some closing remarks. Yeah. Mr.
Thank
Dennis?
you, Mr. Tan. Okay. Now, actually, in fact, I have lots of questions, but however, because I do respect to the parents and students, I shall not ask here. However, is that let me just round up this talk. It's not to encourage or to persuade or to do selling to you to sign up the programs. Okay, basically is that now it's just give you an insight, right, and an overview of what to expect. Okay, what is expected to do, what do you require to know, and what are the objectives that you need to achieve them. So importantly is to be exam smart, and to do so, you must gather a lot of information on the exams and the paper itself, and have the knowledge to use these informations for the techniques and skills for you to handle it well. Now it's a bit too little time for you to really acquire all the knowledge or information that you need for, and the contents, right, for the subject or rather the language itself. But with whatever that you have gathered, it can still help you to gain the 5 marks. And this I'm talking from experience. And as much I'm the director of Cambridge, but I was also a teacher, right, for many years. Okay, but all I know is that for the GCO level, right, you need to know the exams very well. Okay, the format, right, the type of topics that are very commonly set, and what are the questions set, and how are they set, and what is where are the checkpoints, that the markers are looking at. And because these examiners who set the questions are so experienced that they know, right, there will be this segment of students and that segment of students that will be trapped. And that's why they differentiate between the distinction holder and those that are above average, and the average and those who fail. Okay. But these 5 marks, right, you may say, oh, only 5 marks, right? It makes a difference for those who are borderline failing. Okay. It gets you to pass. For those who are on the passing line, these 5 marks can get you into the next level called the B grade, right? And for those who are B grade, that 5 marks can give you a distinction, right? And that add on together for the distinctions, you're going for the aggregate. Okay, so these O levels, right, with whatever they have gathered, I'm thinking of the aggregates, right? And these 5 marks can help elevate your opportunities on your option and choices for wherever you're heading, maybe the college, the JCs, or the polytechnics, and the courses that you are keen to pursue then. Now, everyone takes the O level only once in a lifetime, so don't take it twice. Yeah, so you move on from that. So for that, right, okay, myself, I mean, we have gone through the system, including Mr. Roland. Sometimes a teacher who have gone through so much of this and they're able to provide you an insight, right, will help a lot. Okay, and that person need at least 10 years of experience, very seasoned, just focus on the subject itself. It's just like driving or even swimming. Okay, I mean, the moment you get your license, you can drive what you want, unless you don't get booked by the traffic police if you violate any of these traffic regulations. But before you can start driving, they just want to see the certificate. So likewise, it's the same thing, right? So the certificate is based on the examinations and what they expect, require, and the objectives must be achieved. That's all. Okay. So therefore, it is good that you go through the program, right? Okay. But if you don't worry too. Right, we're not going to abandon you and say, nah, you're not, so I don't care about you. Discuss with the teachers, including Mr. Roland Tan. Okay, subsequently, that for those who have missed out these information, right, and want to go through one more time or share with your friend, we'll record it, edit it, and put it in the social media so you can look at it again and again and again. And also, subsequent weeks, we'll throw in very interesting, challenging questions, right? Okay, or even tips, right, to just share with you. But of course, this is not, it is good, but it will be better if you not only know and understand, but you do it yourself. Okay, because sometimes showing you, telling you, and doing it yourself is 2 different things, right? Okay, so perhaps just for those who are very serious here, right? So if you still have questions, but not today, and you would like to send to us, I believe there's a link, right? Just send to us, all right? And then we'll still respond as long as before the exams commences. Yeah. All right. So perhaps also to help you, for those who are interested to sign up this package, right? There are actually 12 sessions of written for the written papers and 2 sessions for the oral. And I'd say, Guy, the oral take 20%, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I always feel the oral is the easiest to score. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we
Yeah.
speak English. I
Because
think
it's just
for the average students, it should not
Yeah,
be
for the
an issue.
average, okay, you better get it right, because it's just the first thing is they're able to talk and communicate orally. Yeah. Okay. Writing, the spelling, right? Okay, and then the phrasing and so on. Yeah. So I think the oral is the simplest to score. So the 14 sessions, right? Okay. The fees is actually 2,100, which work out to be $150 per session. Yeah. If I was a student, right, or even my parents, I give, man, why pay so much? But if I have a tutor like Mr. Tan or many others in the right, okay, who have 20 years of experience, I think if able to pay the 2,100 to make the difference, right, okay, I will be willing to pay him for his 20 years of experience to tell me, and I just need to go through it once, and once I do it well. Yeah. But for the existing students, our existing students who are not taking English with us, right, and also for those who are here today, even if you are not our students, I will persuade Mr. Tan to offer these 14 sessions at 1,400. Okay, they work out to be $100 per session, times 14 sessions is 1,400 instead of $1,500. Okay, and then also to check if the availability of time, whether Mr. Tan could offer just one day before the exams, a personal consultation. Yeah, that I leave it to Mr. Tan, okay? Yeah. The rest of it, don't worry if you don't sign up this one, right? Not to worry, you still can follow us, the social media, week by week, where Mr. Tan will still continue to throw in some tips there, right? So along the way, you find that you really need help, you need more guidance, then you come to us, okay? Right, Mr. Tan, with this, may I have your permission to close the meeting? Right, I thank you for your precious time, and also the parents and students, right, for coming to listen to that. But please don't just stop here. We still have all the other subjects by the other tutors. Yeah. Today is English, then we still have the maths and the science, as well as the Chinese, right? So I wish all of you the very best for your examinations, and good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Right. Good night. Bye.